So next, we're going to introduce something, process called factoring by grouping. Now, the first thing I want to do is just like I did up here, I got to train myself. What's my greatest common factor? Is there a greatest common factor in these terms that goes into all of them other than one? There isn't. One's the greatest common factor, so I don't need to mess with that. Now, factoring by grouping is something we commonly do whenever we have four terms. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, okay? So here's how factoring by grouping works. First, to be able to successfully factor by grouping, I need the middle sign to be a plus sign. You see the middle sign's a minus sign? So I'm going to put plus negative. Okay, I'm going to change that to a plus sign. But then the rule is like, for example, if I have 3 minus 2, that's the same thing as saying 3 plus negative 2. Okay, so I'm allowed to change that sign, but I have to change the sign of the quantity directly to the right. So the quantity directly to the right is negative 2x, or 2x, so I change it to negative 2x. Now, here's how grouping works. What I do next is I'm going to put parentheses around the first two terms and put parentheses around the last two terms. Okay, so I'm going to put parentheses around the first two terms, parentheses around the last two terms. I'm going to have a plus sign in the middle. And next, I'm going to analyze the greatest common factor in each of these parentheses. Okay, so what's the greatest common factor of x cubed and 5x squared? What's the biggest number that fits into both? Well, I could take out, this one has 3x's, this one has 2. I could take out x squared. So I'm going to put out x squared to the left, just kind of like I did up here. I'm going to put an open parenthesis, and I'm going to write down what's left over if I take out x squared. So I had 3 x's. I took 2 out, so 1's left. 5 doesn't get messed with. I had 2 x's, took 2 out, so none are left. Now, next, first off, this is another thing that we're going to learn. If your leading coefficient is negative, you have to factor out a negative. What is a leading coefficient? I'm getting a little ahead of myself. If the leading coefficient is the number in front of the highest power. So the highest power here, exponent, is this x to the first, okay? And so what I have to do here is, if there's a negative in front of that, I have to factor out a negative, okay? Because my leading term cannot be negative when I'm factoring, okay? All right, next, I'm going to see what's the greatest common factor between 2x and 10. Well, that would be 2. But I'm actually taking out negative 2 because the leading coefficient's negative. So I'm going to write down parentheses. I'm going to divide each of these by negative 2. Negative 2x divided by negative 2 would be x. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is 5. Now, one important thing, I messed up a little bit. Whenever you're doing factoring by grouping, you want to make sure the powers are in descending order. What does that mean? You want to go from highest power to lowest power. So power of 3, power of 2, power of 1, number. Okay, you want it to be in that order. If it's not in that order, you got to get in that order first. Okay, now, this is just like this one here. You see, they each have a binomial, a term with two terms, in common. They each have, like this one had x minus 7 and x minus 7 in common. What did I do? I brought out x minus 7 to the left, and I wrote down what was left over after doing that. So here, what do these two have in common? They have x plus 5 in common. So I'm going to write out x plus 5 to the left. And then the next parentheses, I'm going to write down what's left over if I take out the x minus 5s. So what's left over? X squared plus negative 2 plus a negative, the same thing as minus 2. So this is my answer. Now later on, you're going to need to check and make sure this can't factor further. This can't factor further here, so we're good.